Hello, this is Instructor Todd Williams for the Antioch Public Library District, and today we're going to be looking at Excel 2016 Basics. In this lesson, we're going to look at creating a new workbook, creating new worksheets, and touring the ribbon. So I hope you enjoy this brief tutorial on getting started with Excel 2016 Basics. Our first objective for this class is opening a new workbook. So the first thing we want to do is open up Excel 2016. I'm going to go to the Start menu. You can choose the tile that says Excel 2016, or you can go down the list in alphabetical order till you find Excel 2016. We're going to open that up. We're going to choose Blank Workbook. And now we've just opened up our first workbook. We can tell that it is a workbook because if we look at the top of the screen, it says Book 1. Our next objective deals with how to create new worksheets. So in our workbook, if you look at the bottom of the screen, we have a tab that says Sheet 1. We can hit this plus button to go to Sheet 2, Sheet 3, because a workbook is made up of multiple sheets, just like any other book. And so now we have 3 sheets, which are all each different spreadsheets connected together. Today we will spend the most time on this last objective, which is touring the ribbon. And we will start with the Home tab on the ribbon. When we look at our Excel spreadsheet, this gray area at the top is what we call the ribbon. And this ribbon is broken into clusters called groups. And we have a clipboard group, a font group, an alignment group, a numbers group, styles group, cells group, and an editing group. In the green area above the ribbon, we have these sections called tabs. And we have a Home tab, an Insert tab, a Page Layout tab, Formula tab, Data tab, Review tab, and View tab. And each tab has a different set of functions and groups for its ribbon. The groups in the Home tab consist of the clipboard, which deals with cutting, copying, and pasting information. The Font tab, which deals with how a text looks. The Alignment tab, which deals with where the text or data is arranged in a cell. The Numbers tab, on how numbers are formatted, whether it be money or scientific numbers. Styles deals with the way the overall document looks. Cell deals with inserts and deletes for rows, columns, and cells. And finally, an Edit tab, which deals with the arrangement of the data and how it finally looks. Our next tab is the Insert tab. And the Insert tab deals with a cluster of groups that involve inserting things into the document. This first group is called Tables, and it deals with inserting things like pivot tables. The second group is called Illustrations. You can insert pictures, pictures from the website, shapes, smart art, and screenshots. Then we have an Add-ins group where we can add things in from the Microsoft Store, from Bing, from the People Graph. Then we have the Charts group, and this is where we put in graph charts, bar charts, pie charts. And then we have Tours with 3D maps, and we have spark lines. We can add filters, and then we can add links like hyperlinks to web addresses. And then we can insert text. So we have options for putting in a text box, for putting in headers and footers and word art. And at the very end we have a symbols group where we can input different types of symbols that are not natively found on our keyboard. Next up is the Page Layout tab. On the Page Layout tab, we have groups such as Themes, where we can set the theme of how the overall document looks. Page Setup, where we can determine the margins. We can determine the page orientation, portrait and landscape. We can determine the paper size. We can determine the print area, what will actually be printed. We can choose background images, and we can choose print tiles. Then we move on to the Scale to Fit group, and that deals with scaling the document size to fit our desired parameters. To the right of that is our sheet options group, where we can determine whether or not we see and or print the grid lines and the headings in our document. We can do this by checking or unchecking the option boxes in this group. And that leads us to the arrange group, where we are able to layer images and texts or align them in relation to one another. And next up is the formula tab. And under this tab, we have calculation-related groups. Under this tab, we have the function library where we enter formulas. We have the defined names group. Then we have the formula auditing to double check our work. And then finally, we have the calculations group. The data tab deals with information inside the cells known as data. The data tab has its own set of groups in the ribbon. You have the external data group, which deals with importing data from external sources, as you can see from these different samples here. Then we have the get and transform group, and this deals with modifying external data to fit your spreadsheet. Then we have the connections group, which deals with connecting references together. Then we have the sort and filter group, and this arranges data to simplify searches. So you can filter, you can sort. Then we have data tools, which deal with helping automate some of the tedious editing and updating work. Then we have the forecast group, and this helps determine outcomes for possible scenarios. So what if scenarios, forecasting sheets. And then finally we have outline, and outline group helps summarize data clusters. Next up is the review tab. The review tab deals with fine-tuning the final version of your workbook. The groups in the review tab include proofing, which is to check your spelling and verbiage. You have the insights group, which offers smart lookup, which will look online for information related to the data in a selected cell. You have the language group, which allows you to translate certain phrases into foreign languages. You have the comments group, where you can make notes to self, as well as sharing with other people and receiving their comments on your project. And finally, you have the changes group, and this deals with access and denial parameters for changing the data in your workbook. And finally, we have the view tab. And the view tab deals with how the workbook looks on the screen. And the view tab is broken up into multiple groups like all the other tabs in the ribbon. The first one is the workbook view, and it shows us a normal view, how it normally looks, and then we can look at the page break, and then we can look at page layout and how we're going to set the page to layout, and then we have custom views. Then that leads us to the show group, and that helps us determine what we want to show on the screen, whether it's the grid lines, the ruler, the headings, the formula bar. Then we have the zoom group and the windows group. The zoom group allows us to zoom in and out. The window group allows us to open up multiple windows of the same document in different sections. It also allows us to freeze the panes so we can keep reference points for headers. We can switch those windows. And then down here we have duplicate quick action functions of some of the commands up here. So the workbook view has normal, page break, and page layout. And we have these little icons here that allow us to change that. And we also have a zoom bar, which allows us to zoom in and out of the document like we do under the zoom group. The final stop on our ribbon tour is the backstage view, which is also known as the file tab. So if we come up here and click file, it actually takes us away from the ribbon and gives us background information regarding our workbook. So the info tab here shows us different things that we can do that deal with the information of our document. And then we have the new tab, which is to create a new workbook, and we can see all these different templates to choose from. We can also open an existing document, and we can choose what source it comes from. We can look at recent ones. This one is no longer on file, so I can't open it. And then we can go to save and save as, and this will save our documents. We have the print option, and this gives us the printing parameters that we would actually print our document with. We can see here this is a print preview, but there's nothing to preview. So I'm going to go back and enter some information. I'm going to come over here to A1, type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to auto-populate some more numbers. I'm going to come over here to C1, type in A, B, C, D, E. And we'll auto-populate some more letters there. And now that we have data in our workbook, I'm going to go back to the Backstage view, look at the print setup, and we can see the print preview here. And this is what the page is going to look like. And I have different print options. I can print selected areas, print the whole thing. I can choose the page layout. There's landscape. There's portrait. I can choose the page size. I can choose the margins, whether I want them wide, narrow, normal. And I can do scaling. And then when I want to print, I just click this button right here. I can share this document. I can either share it on a network or I can email it to somebody. I can export. It usually means that we're going to render it into a different format, typically PDF or XPF. Or I can publish it to Power BI. Now this requires an account with OneDrive and or OneDrive for Business, but I can do that, and then we can work on this on a more cloud-based storage. It's asking if I wanted to save it. I'm going to cancel that right now. Back to the Backstage, and I can look at the info now, and we have a little bit more information showing up because I've put data into the workbook. You can see when it was created, you can see who created it, how big the file is, and more. And here is a summary of today's lesson on Excel Basics 2016. For our ribbon tour, we looked at the tabs, the Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formula, Data, Review, and View tab. The Backstage view, we looked at the Info, New, Open, Save, Print, Share, Export, Publish, and Close. Once again, this is Instructor Todd, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of the Antioch Public Library District. For other technology-related classes and other library programs, please be sure and subscribe to our YouTube page.